Welcome to episode 4 of Elaboration of the Philosophy. Today, my guest is my good friend Mike. Mike, how you doing today?
Feeling good? Ready to talk?
Nice, good stuff. We'll hop right into it. So my first question for you, which is the same question as it is for every guest, what is your philosophy and what experiences have led to the latest shift in your philosophy? Or I guess for better understanding, if for terminology's sake, I guess like the principles that you live by and what experiences have shifted those principles.
Well, I think like my philosophy or how I live life would sort of be just roll with the punches. I feel like it's sort of just you gotta continue. I feel every now and then everyone gets a little bit of like, what am I doing in life? Why am I doing this in life? And sometimes it sort of brings you down. Definitely brings me down sometimes. But it's sort of just rolling with the punches. It's like I was telling you before, I have a million assignments this week due to school, so my brain's like, ugh, like I don't want to, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? So you got to roll the punches and strike back. So my philosophy is sort of just keep living. Do what you love.
Be here now and like...
Yeah, and even just, like right now my biggest thing is school. Like, why the hell am I in school? Sometimes there's every other week I'm like, why the hell am I in school? Like, it's stupid. It's like I'm sitting here online looking at the person over the computer and I'm doing assignments.
I feel you, bro. I feel that wholeheartedly. I feel like with school in particular, and throughout our whole schooling life, I feel like showing students and as them beyond being a student, like being an individual who's living life, that they're not powerful in the sense that like they can't do whatever they want.
Well, that's my biggest thing too, especially with that sort of is how I'll bring it back to rolling with the punches. So I'm like, why am I in school? Why am I doing this? And then I'm sitting there and I'm watching. I have to watch 3 2-hour videos a week and write about it, which is the worst thing ever. But as I'm watching it, I see teachers who are like, hey, like these kids aren't getting the mental health necessities that they need, so their mental health is up. They're not getting anything they need as an individual. It's sort of just like they're in a working machine as a student, and that's all they are.
Yeah.
So my biggest thing is I want to be a teacher is like, hey, I'm not going to treat these kids like crap. I'm just going to try they're individuals. They're humans like myself.
Yeah.
So it's that's like I said, it keeps me going. It's like that's makes me want to do school. Like COVID was a big experience that friggin' sort of shaped up what I'm doing. I lost a lot of weight and I sat there and I was like, crap, like what am I doing? I gotta get active. I gotta start doing stuff.
Yeah, you gotta get moving. You gotta...
Yeah, so I think the bad experiences are really like the what am I thinking? What are the words I'm thinking of? Bad experiences are the things that keep me going. It's sort of that's what shifts the philosophy.
From them, you know? You can't, like, I feel that every experience that I've had, good, bad, or a combination of both, has provided an opportunity to learn, you know? I feel like there's always an opportunity to learn. That's why I'm, having this conversation with you right now. There are many other reasons as to why this conversation's happening, but one that stays consistent is always having an opportunity to kind of just learn and really not only show myself and you and each other that these conversations can happen and there's things to learn from individuals' experiences, but people need to hear this shit.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that's, and I'm going to keep going back to the teacher thing. It's sort of how I want to be an LA teacher. It's sort of like I read one page of this book and it hits me like, wow, that was like heart-wrenching, that was horrendous. I read another person reads it like, oh, that was stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just your viewpoints on things, and that's another big factor. Is that's also like your experiences. That's like you said, shifting your philosophy. It's sort of based on what you experienced in your past. It could be past 2 weeks, past 2 years, past 20 years.
Fucking past 2 minutes.
Yeah, that'll just shape up what you're feeling and your own philosophy of how you're gonna live. It sort of just switches in your mind.
Word. From there, I guess off of my list of talking points, I guess using like our experiences as like tools, I guess, and just tools in general of how like, I guess for me, like one thing that we generationally have experienced is technological dependence in our everyday lives.
Yeah.
And like, they're great tools, but I also feel that it's equally destructive.
My thing on it is that I feel like there are great tools, and there are, quote, tools, unquote, that just destroy the actual, the helpfulness in it. So
Yeah.
I don't know, did you watch A Social Dilemma?
I did not.
Okay.
No.
It's a little cheesy, a little corny, it's
Yeah,
whatever.
of course.
But what they were saying made 100% sense. So if you're sitting on your phone's down, you get a message like or an alert. You pick up your phone. It says blank has just started a live video. It's like you don't need it. You don't care. Usually you don't care about the person who does the live video. It doesn't affect your life at all. But you sit there and you're like, oh well, let me just go on Instagram anyway. Pop,
Yeah.
go on. So it's the stuff like that that I not intentionally, that I especially hate. It's just because it just makes you pick up your phone. And like, so if I want to go work out and I'm sitting there and something pops on my phone, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go on my phone for a second. Then you're on for 10 minutes. Then you're on for 20 minutes.
Exactly, and then you're in a different, like you're just on your phone now, and
It just
your
ruined
attention
all
point, and it ruined the whole purpose of like what the phone was put there for, and
Or what it should be used
and also even down to the app that you get the notification from. You know, like I guess for me, like I've definitely done my fair share of blaming of social media.
Yeah.
But I also feel that it's not that.
No, it also has to do with us.
But it's always been us.
Mm.
Like it's always been it's a combination of like fear of kind of fear of the unknown, but B, also worrying about what other people think.
FOMO,
like,
man, it's a real thing.
And like living through your sense of what other people's lenses are. Because like I've done that a lot by like what I wear, like what certain things I say, like certain things that I say like they're all like a lot of it used to be for the purpose of getting affirmation from others.
But that's why I really think that everything really ties back, especially with our generation, to social media. It's sort of like you sit there, you're on Snapchat, and you're like, oh, well, what's this person doing today? You keep on looking at it, and then you're sitting there like, oh, they're going to see my stories. So, like, I'm not going to post this. This looks stupid. I'm not going to do that. Yeah. It's sort of just changing and shifting your philosophy, sort of. I guess it's in a smaller version of it. Like, oh, I'm not going to wear that. Like, no, that looks ugly, I guess. The person said it didn't look good, so I'm not going to wear that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's sort of like, it sort of fucks up your mind. It's just sort of, you're twisting and converting to what other people want to see from you.
Yeah, I think social media has definitely magnified the issue. I don't think it necessarily is the cause of the issue, and I think it could be very much part of the solution of the issue. I just think when it has the opportunity to be the solution, it can equally be the destruction of what you're trying to solve, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's a crazy thing because I'm definitely like, now I'm trying to use social media as a very different tool than what I've been using
a resource
before.
now.
You know, it's a resource, and instead of having it play a part in a story that I'm telling myself that isn't true.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to now use it to make it kind of a part of the story that I'm telling that is most true. You know?
I think that I saw my cousin do it a while back and it made me laugh. I was like, what is she doing? It's people on Instagram are like, make Instagram fun again. And they're just all posting random crap of like them having fun with their friends and all that.
Yeah.
But that's what I feel like that's sort of what everything should be like. It's not just like I'm gonna post this selfie because I want this guy to comment on it or I want this person. It's more like, hey, like, and that's why I try to change at least my social media because I'm still gonna use it. And I hate to say it's like an addictive thing. You're like, hey, like I need to calm down, but hey, I'm still gonna use it. So I tried making it more of like fun. Like I'll take 10 pictures. Because you usually save pictures, you screenshot stuff that I like from the week, and I'm like, oh, let me throw it on there so everyone knows what I like for the week.
Exactly. Like, people look at that and they'll perceive it a certain way, and, like, some people, like, for me, like, I love when people share that random shit.
No, yeah,
it's just like, yo, that is what social media, it's about the randomness, it's about the spontaneity of all of life, I guess, and, like, trying to Instagram, I guess, specifically, but also Snapchat and all these things, like, they're a platform of expression. And, like, how you express yourself is, like, is important. I feel like it's like and the way that you feel about expressing yourself.
I feel like also just the use of images is a deadly way to express yourself.
True.
Like Twitter, I love Twitter because I can just write whatever the hell I want, and then like either you see it or you won't, you retweet it or you won't. Like Instagram, you gotta look at the pictures. You're gonna be like, oh, you're gonna have to pretty much.
There's gonna be analyzing like
for no reason. You're gonna be looking at everything, like analyzing. When you're on, that's why Twitter is my favorite social media, because you just type it, you write it, you tweet it, there you go. People look at it like, ah, whatever, scroll past, or they like, I want to make a comment about this. It's like you're actually viewing it and reading something and learning about something.
Yeah, I agree, and like, it's crazy because my relationship with like language in itself is completely different. Like, it's weird because you can apply language in so many cool ways, but it's also very destructive because with language there are labels, and we identify with certain labels, and then we not only not identify with other labels, but we verbally destroy those labels for whatever reasons. And I think inherently it kind of brings a division, not only on a mass scale, but like on an individual security kind of feeling. Like, it brings a division of like what you feel what you think you want as opposed to what you really want.
You want to give me an example of that? Like, what do you mean by with the label? Because I might be thinking a different way than you.
I guess like it's so weird. Like, I feel that in terms just like labels in general, like the way that we use language, it's the way that we take language as or just like thoughts and anything really is like an absolute truth to it. Like, for me, like, one thing that a lot of people get caught up in is their thoughts, including myself. But like, at the end of the day, our thoughts aren't ours. Like, they're not ours to be had and possessed. As like, I think it's more generationally passed down through parenting, and then the parenting of your parents, and then the parenting of your parents' parents, and so on.
Yeah.
But I think attaching to it, like, it's representative. Language is representative as opposed to like it being what it's trying to represent.
Okay.
Like, language represents our expression of thought and feeling, but it's not our thoughts and feelings because it's an expression of them and a representation, not what they actually are.
Not purely what we're
and not only that, but it's not necessarily, they're not even ours to necessarily begin with. They're not something that we own that is exclusive to us and outside of everything else that isn't us.
So I'm trying to process and trying to get through.
I got you.
No, it's fine. I'm trying to think, because my like, when you say thought, I'm thinking of like, I'm gonna go and get food or something like that. You're saying those, like, I think those are those are on a smaller scale.
Every single, yes, those thoughts, but also like, I guess more so of like foreshadowing the future and thinking about the past. Like, for example, what you said, you have assignments to do. I guess this is the example. Like, you have all these assignments to do, and you're expressing them with these words that associate with a thought and a feeling and an emotion that you have towards it. But in reality, and like for me, I have economics at 4. I have to walk my sister's dogs later.
Yeah.
But all there is right now is this.
Yeah.
Like, those things don't exist.
As of right now, yeah.
You know, because right now is the only time that we have, and the labels have equal, like, it's weird because they're equally good and bad. Everything, like, the line of good and bad is cut right down the middle. So, like, how do you go about that? You know, like, where, like, does intent outweigh the balance? Does action outweigh the balance in terms of your thoughts? Like, And this isn't me this is me questioning it because I don't know.
Yeah, no one knows. That's
like,
the thing. I feel like the way I'm just gonna like segue that into like. So you're saying like nothing like as of right now, just right here, us two in this room exists right now.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like I feel like that's a problem that even I struggle with too. Is like I feel like I'm sort of the one who's in my life that I think I'm one of the best at is like what I'm doing now. Like if let's say me and you have a plan to go somewhere at 8, but like I'm doing something now and it's just over. Like I can't do it at 8. It's some people live or die by what they have to do.
Yes.
It's more of like...
Oh my god, bro. Say that again. Say that exact thing again. And if you forgot it, I'm going to say it.
Say it again. I think it's more of just like when you have
like,
things that are set for the future, like they're not set. You have more time. You have time now to do what you need to do.
People, like, do or die for the things that they have to do.
Mm.
That's a great fucking... Like, see, that's a great... Like, that's the reason why language, for me, like... is equally
it's the solution and the problem.
Yeah, like
exactly.
Because you put that thought, you express that thought in such a way that is like true, and I feel it, because I do it myself.
Yeah,
for a lot of things,
It's a human trait that's just I don't know if it's a human trait, but it's just a trait that's just so innate that you can't not.
I guess I feel like it is. I guess it's human because like I guess for me like. We are human beings.
I think we're just too smart for our own good. I think sometimes. Because I feel like a bird right now is not going, oh, like, I got to get food for later. A bird's like, I'm hungry now, I got to go get some fucking food.
I think we are, not that we're too smart for our own good, but us thinking that we're too smart for our own good is... Because at the end of the day, we don't know shit.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how much we think we know... No matter how much we think something is 100% true, like, you can't, like, it's just not. And I guess going back to, like, the language thing and thoughts not being ours, like, the way we express the thought through the tools that we have is under our influence. But a thought in English isn't ours. The English language isn't ours. We didn't create it. We didn't... Exactly.
I think also the biggest thing that the biggest influencer in... how do I explain this? You continue your point. I'm gonna try to think while you talk. Like the English language is not ours, but it's sort of like we're just using it, we're influenced by it in order to do certain things. So I feel like, I'm going to bring it back to social media, that sort of me and our friend all the time, we laugh hysterical because either we feel like we're in a goddamn simulation, the way coincidences happen, the way you're sitting there like, oh, like, friend, I could really go for a burger right now, and then you go on whatever app, whatever thing, and then 18 million burgers pop up.
Yeah, and they're listening to you.
That's the biggest thing, and I feel like that's what influences all of our choices and our thoughts, is that we're just sitting there, and especially our generation, is that when you look at it, and you're like, oh, like, I could really go for that, and then the next week, like, if I want to get, I don't know, roll and roast or some sort of food chain, some sort of thing, and I see it, by the next week, I'm probably going to go there and get it. It's just everything that we see is just directly implemented.
Yeah, it's not, and that's not only on a content level, I feel.
No, 100%, I'm just saying.
But it's also, I agree with everything
that's
you're
the biggest
saying.
one for my life,
like,
is like that.
For me, it's like not only on a content level, but also on the physical level, like looking at the phone. The phones, the computer, they're all linked to a network. And the network is a bunch of towers that radiate frequencies that physically change our whole reality. But since we can't see them, people don't think it's true. That's why when I think of the Matrix, like, that shit, like I feel like when people see things, like, I feel like the opposite ends of the spectrum, like, people say that things cannot be true because they saw it in a movie, but people think it is true because they've seen it in a movie. Like, for me with the Matrix, it's like that energy field and like how consciousness flows through that, because like I really feel at the core we are all energy, and we all vibrate at a frequency.
Oh yeah, frequencies, yeah.
And frequencies clash or they harmonize, and there are a lot of frequencies that are in the air that are clashing, that when they try to harmonize, it doesn't do good because it isn't necessarily a natural frequency that was meant to be put there.
They don't connect well.
It was constructed to put there to influence the mind, to control perception. I think that the one thing that... It's weird because I do believe that in our system there are people who are trying to control a perception and have a mass perception for everyone to kind of fall in line with. But I think that it's known to be very hard because we're not who we think we are. I think that a lot of people identify with the human experience physically and don't realize that we are much more.
Well, I think that's also, I'm going to go back on the clashing of the frequencies. I feel like if that, let's say tomorrow we have an invention that can be like, we can see the frequencies. I think it would explain a whole lot about, the easiest one I could say is love. Like, you could find someone that you love or you're in love with, or it could be friendly, it could be real relationship-wise.
Yeah, whatever the love is.
I think that, frequencies like that could affect that immensely. Right now we're saying, it's like a chemical impasse in the brain that sparks this, whatever. I feel like the frequencies also have something to do with that. That's something...
Well, yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that...
That's something I just wish we knew more about. Just, if I could see, if I come close to contact with you and our frequencies are, let's say, we'll give it a level scale. Like, mine's a 6
but
and
yours is a 4.
But I guess
you feel it, though, because, for me, and I guess this is the example I used when I was recording with Matt. Say we're having a conversation. If Fran walks in the room, there are some conversations that are like, hey, let's continue the conversation.
And sometimes you gotta
and then sometimes it's like, all right, you pin it in the butt. And, that's the same with me. I know I walk into a room when people are having a conversation. I know my presence changes the dynamic.
Well, yeah.
You know, and that energy is felt. But for me, what I try to carry is just try to do it for love. I feel that the way to, radiating a potent frequency of, that's most loving is just, doing shit that you want to do. I say doing shit selfishly out of love. Because every act is a selfish act, even if you think it's selfless. One of the examples that I used was, our reaction to COVID and how I feel that it was very much fear-based. I thought that the fear-based purpose was to control a lot of people's feelings on how they act out their everyday life for the rest of their life. People feel they're not as powerful as... Who is that lady outside? Thanks, Nala. Thank you for barking. But, yeah, it's a crazy thing, honestly. I think that you got, with COVID, I feel that the balance in everything is not being applied to our reaction to COVID.
Yeah, I feel like it was just I feel like it was something that didn't happen so quickly, but because of the way, I don't want to just say the U.S., I could sort of say, the world works, it's sort of it was there, so we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And then it hit here, and it really wasn't that quick, but it felt like this. And they said, everyone's got to stay inside. Everyone's got to do this.
Yeah.
And then, said, fear-inducing immediately.
And that's why, I am very... I wouldn't say worried, but we got an election in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And, 2 weeks from yesterday, actually.
Yesterday, yeah.
And, that's a crazy fucking thing.
It's a big thing.
But I also know that neither one of these motherfuckers are going to solve any real problems, and not even close to it. My problem now is that this guy in office right now is just a clown when he speaks. Most of the time, he's still an individual, so whether his policies are good or bad, who they affect, I think that the energy that he radiates is very egotistical, and it's very hard to not be egotistical in that position of like living, I guess.
I feel like I'm gonna interrupt you here. I feel like it's also just a sort of personality trait that, because and I am probably like, if I had a level to know about politics, I'm at like 40%.
Oh, I'm like 0, bro.
But if we're talking like people, I think he is what he seems to be. He's a businessman. So look at that. The economy did pretty fucking great while he was here, or while he will be here. But like you said, he's still a 74-year-old man, and a 74-year-old. I mean, no grandparent that I know should be on Twitter yelling, saying all the crap that he's saying.
I also think that he
doesn't keep himself like not well kept, because he's well kept, but he doesn't.
I think that it's good that I think it's good that he doesn't give a fuck. In the sense that like he's just doing what he feels is good, albeit for a system that he has benefited from, which I get, I understand. But I also don't believe that the left in our country gives a fuck about people at all. They own 90% of media.
Yeah.
They are mainstream media.
Agreed.
So, like, how is it that we have a well-balanced system politically when one side owns 90% of media?
I think there is no balance. There appears to be a balance, and we can see that in like the system that there's two sides, and then the 3/4 votes, and there's a balance. But
I think they're on the same team.
I think not even that they're on the same. They're on the same team for a lot of it, but I feel like, especially with like how history works, is that you keep up with the times. If the Romans and the Greeks didn't advance their weaponry, they wouldn't have fucking been as great as they were. If they didn't do this, they didn't do that. I feel like we've had two political parties in a political system that hasn't changed. And like I said, I don't know a lot about it. From looking at it and from hearing about it, I'm trying to intake.
100 years, 200
it's been the
years,
same exact thing.
This is what happens. George Washington says the political parties are his worry. No presence of political parties leads to the party that, or the ideology that prospers most with the most economic backing, since that is the spectrum that of like fluidity of freedom apparency. And from there, whoever has the most money, their ideologies are going to get pushed. The more they have the power, the more their ideology grows. There's a party. You need something to oppose that. You disband that. It's a vicious cycle of, if you don't have two parties, you're going to have one.
I think now, especially like you said with the money, is just nowadays is one of the biggest things, because there could be a guy that we have no idea about who has and this could be each individual person, every ideology you want. He has every political belief that you have. He has everything, but he doesn't have multi-million dollars to get advertising, to be able to go to each debate or whatever the hell you want to say, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like with nowadays. That's what it is, because Biden's been around the political system for like 40 years, 50 years. And I can see that he hasn't done a lot. He switched up his ideologies, but now no one else is running, and he's the biggest name. He has the biggest name in the Democratic Party. So there you go.
It's about getting Trump out.
Yeah, well that's why
it's not about
caring about the country, or if he's doing anything wrong, trying to solve that. It's about, hey, we're a Democratic Party. We feel like he's wrong and horrible, so get him out.
Get him out and give us power. And I get that. But I also understand that for a lot of the right-leaning folks in the country, not everyone, but most people, because this is just most of the people in the country anyways, white Christians.
Yeah.
And now you bring the ever forbidden clash of church and state ideologies into one. And from there it's very, okay, we gotta I feel it's a different way of looking at religion as a whole. Like,
Well, I feel like people can't comprehend that either. A lot of white Christians can't comprehend that they believe in Jesus Christ and God. If I believe in Zeus, I believe in the wrong. Like if I believe whatever, I believe in the wrong God. That's why religion has changed so much in my eyes.
I think the problem is like, and I guess it's just a religion, not like pointing out specific religions, but the idea of religion and belief systems is that people believe their thoughts and they believe their beliefs to be true.
Yeah, that they're the fact.
Instead of
fact.
believing to believe.
Mm.
And having that to be subjective and being able to listen to someone say, oh, I don't look at it that way, I look at it this way, and it's like, oh shit, I don't agree with the way you look at it, but I learned from the way you look at it because I'm now learning about you and the way you carry yourself, and I feel that on a fundamental level of individuality.
I feel beliefs though also are just sort of like you said, like you learn about the person how they are, that's sort of how they believe. So, like, if my grandmother's sitting there and she's that's not a good example. What am I thinking of? Sort of just like, you can believe in the same Jesus Christ and the same God from the same story, from the same book, but how you perceive it could be totally different than the person you sit next to in church.
Perception changes everything.
But that's what I feel like also, but that, it was like that, religion used to be like that, where even with Buddhists, monks, everything, it was like, you still believe in the same thing, but you all had different sort of thoughts, I don't know what to say. You had a different...
It manifested differently, you know? Like
in yourself, and that's what made you believe. Now it's sort of, you read the book and you're like, that happened, that's fact, Jesus Christ is alive, I believe this. And then everyone's like that.
It's more of like Bible. They're not really Christian. They're like Bible readers.
Yes.
And like, for me, I've kind of realized that I've found a balance of Eastern and Western philosophy and civilization. Like, for me, the Eastern philosophical mind that also comes from a lot of what David has told me and what Matt has told me and a lot of the conversations I've had of like really feeling the interconnectedness of everything and how like we are all one. Like you can't look at everything from a point of view that is outside of everything.
Mm.
You can't. It's impossible.
It's
literally impossible. And from there, where I balance it out with more Western kind of philosophies, a focus on individuality, but loving yourself and caring for yourself and finding responsibility to kind of not only feel the love and the happiness, but also to like, and this dips back into Eastern philosophy, but to like also feel the anger and feel the sadness instead of trying to flip it into something else right away. And I think it's very important to balance really being individual, but also at the same time recognizing that you are individual here, but you are individual with everything as one.
One for yourself, one for all. I feel like that's a... and that's exactly it. I feel like sometimes some people get a little crazy talking about it, but I feel like a lot of the time it's more of just we've lost that connection. Like, especially with religion. Like, I feel like a lot of religions, it was just sort of that connection. It was like, hey, like, we believe in this, and we believe that... I will explain it. It's just not that everything is one, but to the fact that even if you believe that, that's what makes the power, I guess, the quote unquote power.
All I gotta say, which it will be talked about at a later date because we will have more episodes and more conversations, like we always have had. But after this weekend, all of the things that you are trying to explain with words, you'll feel outright and you'll just know that, like, hey, like...
No, I can't explain it, but this is what it was. This is what I'm excited for this weekend. Talk about drugs now. I watched it was a slight documentary. It was like an hour long. And it was a I don't want to say 30s, it might have been 1950s suburban housewife. They gave a glass of LSD. And she drank it, and it was just her entire experience of it. and it was fucking ballistic. It was just sort of her sitting there and like, I wish I could touch the air particles. I could see them. And they ask her like, hey, like, I need you to write down like what you're seeing, what you're feeling. We have to learn about this, blah blah blah. And she's just writing down like not words, random scribbles, going crazy. Not crazy, but she's just going. I don't know how to explain it. And then she's like, I don't know how to explain it. She's like, I can't. She's like, there's no possible way to explain what I'm feeling.
Because
she's like, I could grab everything. She was like, I am feeling the molecules. Like I can do all this stuff. And I feel like
the space. You really feel. You feel yourself moving through the universe as opposed to you walking upon it or it rolling under you in terms of the earth.
That's the biggest thing that I've heard when I looked into all this with the hallucinatory drugs and whatever, is that like you feel as if you're a person on a planet spinning. Like right now we're sitting in a room, we're fine. You feel like you could feel like your feet on the ground, and you could feel like the rock beneath you. You could feel it all. Like you could feel turning, like you could feel everything.
You feel it all. For me, what I've come to like think of that as like we feel it because we are it. You know, like we. It's so weird. I really like. There really is no way to explain it because it is a feeling that cannot be put into words because the words don't do it justice. The representation that you put into it, whether it's on paper or by mouth, like all you, like for me, anytime I try to explain it is, especially if I'm tripping in the moment, like the best way I can explain it is to somehow be able to pull you into it.
Yeah.
You know?
There's no way to just use your words to describe what's going on.
Exactly. Literally that. So I guess from there, I guess we could talk a little bit more about drugs. And I guess our relationship with drugs. Like, I guess for me, I'm a believer of like everything kind of having the drug properties in terms of, I guess, what's your definition of a drug? What would be like your...
Well, I think the definition of a drug is skewed. I think it's just a word that the definition has been like just twisted and turned and
I agree.
Put to shit. It's sort of annoying. Like I said, I haven't done many drugs at all.
I disagree with you.
Well, in the term drugs, I'm going to say, how do I explain it? More of medical. I don't want to say medical. I haven't done what people now. If I say the word drug,
societal.
Yeah, but if I say the word drug, you don't think of like love, obsession. You don't think of drugs like that. Yeah, then that's just the world today. Like when I think of a drug, I'm thinking of coke, Molly, shrooms, all this crap.
Substances.
Yeah, but drugs can, and 100%, drugs can sort of. It has to do with the brain. Like if I get dopamine from something, if I do like doing something, it's gonna turn. It's a drug. I'm gonna be like, oh well, I want to do that more.
Literally that. Everything is psychoactive.
No.
Like. Me, like, talking, these conversations are drugs in terms of, like, it's all psychoactive and it's all done with a purpose and there are certain levels of attachment and addiction to it.
That you don't even know about that. It's just, like, it's so innate in there.
And, like, you know more about it when you look at it that way. Like, for me, like, yes, coffee, alcohol, weed, different drugs, do different things as opposed to if I were eating something and, like, for example, going behind the wheel. You know, like, I'm not drinking and driving.
Yeah.
You know, I'll drink coffee and drive. If I have to, if I need to drive, and if I'm stoned, so be it. That's what I have to do, and I know that I'm capable of doing it. Same thing with food, but I also know that I've had experiences drinking coffee and driving where I've pulled over because I can.
Yeah.
Like they're like, and I bring up that example because it has to do with like relative capability of doing things under the influence of drugs and like the things that you put into your body and the things that you perceive affect you even when you're not doing it. Smoking weed affects me when I don't smoke weed.
Yeah.
Coffee affects me
when I don't drink
even when I'm not drinking coffee.
Yeah.
My diet affects me even when I'm eating other things or not eating at all. You know, like these things have the same effects as societal standard drugs that people have been conditioned to not feel and believe, because there's a market where there's a certain quantity demanded, there's a certain quantity supplied, and then people, like here, this is my thing. People ask, oh, why do I smoke weed? And then it's like, I equally use it to gain insight about myself and getting deeper into my thoughts and possibly getting to roots of problems, but I equally use it as a vice to ignore other shit. But like,
I think that what I've learned, and I'm going to interrupt you with it, what I learned with sort of life, and it sort of happened with the Black Lives Matter protest and what's going on, is like, there's always a double-edged sword. Like there's,
always.
And it sort of it became so relative in my life now that it's like I'll use that same example. There's good cops and there's bad cops. There's both sides.
Mm-hmm.
There's good people, there's bad people. There's good drugs, there's bad drugs. Mm-hmm. In those drugs, there's good things and bad things. It's just sort of, and it's very hard in life to,
and everything.
And it's very hard to stay on one side of the sword. It's so hard to, if you just want to smoke weed, to be innate, and like sometimes I smoke weed and I meditate for 20 minutes and I'm like, oh, and then that's part of the good side of the sword. I meditated in my thoughts, and then after I'm done meditating, I'll be like, oh, well, I'm gonna go lay on the couch, eat a bag of chips, and watch TV. Like it's very hard to stay on the one side of the sword.
Yeah, and I think like it's not about staying on one side, because you're always gonna experience both. You know, it's about the goods. Like you meditating and getting stoned and meditating wouldn't be what it is if A, the thoughts when you're sober weren't as optimal, and B, even when you smoke and you get anxious as fuck, that wouldn't, like, they don't, like, they need each other to exist. Good and bad. Like, everything needs its opposite, you know, or else it would not exist. It wouldn't be here. You know?
It wouldn't be the same thing. It wouldn't be the...
It'd be a totally different situation of expression, you know? But I think with drugs, and I guess my relationship has changed so much with them, especially as I started to use them. Not only to use them, and by them I mean the societal standard of drugs, but also thinking about everything else as a drug. Like, they give you a feeling.
Yeah.
You know, like, for me, I like to read, and when I read, I'm feeling great. You know? And sometimes when I play video games, I'm feeling great too. But then sometimes I also don't feel as great, and then am I playing the video games to subside the not feeling good, or do I not feel good because I'm playing video games?
Yeah, it's sort of just like that happens with a lot of things where you sit there and like you said, you felt great playing video games yesterday, and then today you go and play them and you feel like shit, and you're sitting there in your head and you're like, well, is this making me feel worse, or I'm like you said, am I playing this and I feel worse, or am I doing this to try to get away from that worse feeling? Yeah. And you just don't know. And I feel like, and I'm gonna go with like societal view of drugs and fucking hardcore drugs.
Go for it.
A lot of it has to do with just your mental space. Like when you smoke weed, if you, like I said, if like I know one of our friends, I'm not gonna name names, one of our friends smokes weed and he gets so effing anxious that he can't do it. He's like, I don't want to do it. I'm over it. And that's just, it's sort of your mental space going into it. And that's the same as, my biggest thing is, like you said, if you want to drink coffee because it's the coffee, it's your mental space going into it. If you just drink coffee because, I do it every morning, well, now I need it. Like, you don't need it.
You don't need it.
It's just, that's your mental space on it.
Exactly.
And I feel like that's what trips, like a normal thing.
A night out drinking, a night out chilling and burning, and
even just a night out hanging out. Like, if you're hanging out with these people.
Sober, too.
Yeah, it's just, like, your mental space, that's how you're going to view it. So if I walk in a room with a bunch of people I don't know, and I'm like, well, that guy looks like a dick, I don't want to talk to him. Your mental space is going to be like, I don't want to talk to that guy, whatever, that's it, and you won't talk to that guy.
Exactly.
It's sort of just how you look at it and how you view it and how you go into it, which, like, perception is just...
It's everything.
It's disgusting how vital it is.
Well, yeah, because that's the lens that we kind of see life throughout, and it kind of you have to be able to dig deep into yourself to figure out what traumas and what experiences have most negatively affected your perception on experiencing life. You know, like
to counteract that, I feel like a lot, like what you're saying is like negative experiences, sort of. I'm bringing my terms, like sort of ruined your mental space and how
not even that they ruin your mental space, but you gotta, and it's not necessarily the negative experiences that you know. But it's negative experiences that you either actively ignore or cannot talk about. Trauma.
Yeah. Serious
trauma that isn't dealt with. Kind of bites you in the ass because you're not.
You have to go through it. You have to really be able to sit there with your ego. And kind of just tell yourself that it's okay to forgive yourself for the horrible things that you've done. You know, you've punished yourself long enough. I feel like also that's also something that people don't go through a lot. I know my childhood wasn't the greatest, but if I didn't have that shitty childhood, I wouldn't be able to like process my thoughts, process my emotions, process this. And
you have a foundation of like...
And yeah, as soon as you go through that, it's like building blocks. You start there. And I'm like, all right, well, I got to get through that. And then, like, it also builds all the way back to your philosophy of life. It's sort of just like, my thing is something bad happens and I can't do anything about it, put it to the back of the brain, put it to the back of the head and keep fucking pushing.
Yeah, and I feel like for me, like it's all about really differentiating between the things that you can control, which to me is very little, compared to all of the things that you cannot control. And for me, what that starts with is I cannot control anyone else's actions in terms of what they choose to do. I don't control their choices. Therefore, every other person that's not me is outside of my control, and now I have to look inwards to see which things I can control internally and what things I can't control internally. And I feel the things that I can control internally are the way that I kind of express myself in terms of the experiences that I've had and how I think about them. And from there, that shifts my perception on how I view myself, which in turn shifts the way I look at others, because like you are me, like that's how I feel. I feel like you are me and I am you, and we're doing the same thing. It's the experience and content of everyone's individual experience is vastly different. But in terms of the experiencing part and what we're trying to do here, which is, at the end of the day, figure it the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like, that's all the same. And, like, I feel like a lot of what I've been told, and what I feel a lot of people are told, especially in their younger years, by their parents, is to figure it the fuck out.
Well, I think that's also one of the biggest problems. You should learn that you need to figure it the fuck out. You shouldn't. I feel like the biggest thing is like when like this happened. As soon as you said "figure it the fuck out," I went directly to like a nuclear family. So for a lot of people, figuring it the fuck out is getting a good job, having a wife, having kids,
exactly.
And there you go. And for some people, that's them. That's what they wanted. Like I think the case. I feel like this is brought up a lot. The term of your family, and it's sort of like a traditional thing. But I feel like a lot of like for most people, sometimes that's what people want. People want to have a wife, a kid, a good house, a nice job, whatever. But I feel like for the people who don't internally really want that, it's sort of just something that they go through anyway because maybe that's the solution. They're like, oh, maybe I need a wife and a kid and a great car and a nice house.
Exactly. I think that, like, people... Gary Vee says this, and when I listened to it, it made a lot of sense. Like, parents tell their kids to figure it out, even though they don't have it figured out. And then there's this pressure put on a child. Not because they necessarily want their child to figure it out, but they want their child to figure it out so they can boast about their children figuring it out.
Yeah, that's just like, that's the shitty part. My
Like,
brain went more to like, I can't figure the fuck out, so like, I didn't, like, if
so
mom
you're
told...
not going to do, like, yeah.
No, not even that. Like, if my mom couldn't figure the fuck out, and if she was told to figure the fuck out at 19 years old, maybe she'll tell me at 10, like, you gotta figure the fuck out.
Exactly.
Like, hopefully you get a way out to figure the fuck out. But I feel like it's a... Figuring it out is...
It's hard. It's not
it's crazy.
It's... What I've realized is that it's... We're always going to be trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think, like, what it is isn't necessarily meant to be figured out. It's not something that's meant to be understood.
No. And it's not something that I assure you, if someone somehow does figure out how to do it, not going to be in our lifetime.
It's not.
It's sort of just something that you have to develop yourself.
I think it's subjective. I think everyone figures out what works for them and what makes them happy.
Mm.
But I think the it part kind of goes with just being present and really worrying about what you enjoy and how you want to express yourself and how you want others to see you rather than you adjusting to how, like, in kind of like preserving the image of like what you want them to see you as
versus how you actually want to be.
Exactly.
No, I feel like that's also something that, yeah, and that's something about making your own choices. I feel like, I'll give a funny example. During quarantine when COVID hit, I was like, I'm going to be inside for 8 weeks. I want to do something like stupid. Like I wanted to shave my head. I was like, oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
No, you can't do that. No, no, you're not allowed by the girlfriend, by the mom, by everyone. I was like, all right, I don't do it. Turned to frat a few weeks ago. First thing to go, you want to shave your head? Immediately, I was like, that's something I wanted to fucking do. Like, that's something that I was like, I wanted to do that. So I sat there and I was like, fuck yeah. They sat down and ripped my head apart. I was like, awesome.
Yeah, it felt good. Like,
it's just something that, like, and a lot of people need those experiences that are like, something that they wanted to do that would have made them felt good.
Which, I mean, liberating.
Exactly. And that's something, like, liberation is like a big necessity in finding out, I guess not who you are, but what you want to do. Or it's a little bit of, it's like a release.
Yeah, it's just a release of pressure.
Mm.
Like it's one less idea in your head that has all these possibilities and manifestations and the what ifs. Like, fucking cut your hair. Literally, like,
what's gonna happen? Like,
for a while I wanted to cut my hair. Same thing. I had it mad long, and like I've had it mad long for a long time, and like I'm gonna grow it back out again. I know for a fact. And that's why I tell myself now to be patient, because sometimes I want to just buzz my head right now and grow it back out. Yeah. But I also know that, I look good, so I don't have to worry. I always used to tell myself that I didn't look good with short hair. Which,
that's an experience. You gotta get through it.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, now the way I see myself has changed because I know I have more capability than I ever thought that I would. In whatever I do.
Oh yeah, but like I said, something small like changing hair is more. I think that's sort of like, that's what I want to say about a release. It's sort of like I said, you didn't think you looked good with short hair, and then you did it, and you're like, well, like I'm still living right now. I'm not getting like clowned every time I walk at the house. Blah blah. Like you sort of be like, I went through the experience, so that's it. Like I'm good, and now that's my mindset. Is that I shave my head. I'm sitting there, and every day I'm like, it doesn't look that bad. Like it's whatever. Like, oh, I did it, and now I'm getting through it. And it's sort of a thing that you just have to go through with life, is that if you want to do it, fucking try it. Like, it's just whatever.
You do it, and then you roll with the punches, like you said.
Exactly. It's just, that's it. And that's the best thing about it, I feel like, is just doing something to fucking do it. Why not? You're not going to feel it again.
That is the whole point.
Yeah.
It's you cut your hair to cut your hair.
Like you said, you cut your hair to cut your hair, but you also cut your hair to sort of, I don't want to say this sounds very morbid, not to feel, but you sort of get a little bit more of a feeling. Yeah, I sat there and I'm like, wow, like I'm doing this, whatever, fuck it, I'm excited.
Like, like the nerves are up, you're in the moment.
Exactly.
More so, than, and like that's for me. That's what I've learned on mushrooms, and that's what you mainly feel. It's the feelings that you experience on mushrooms are not outside of the sober self. You know, it brings you into a world of presence to the point where if you think about all the crazy things, then you're really going to feel it. But, like, if you just go with the flow, you're there. Like, it's not reactionary, you're defensive, but you're kind of dancing with what your situation is, you know?
Yeah. You guys got to deal with what's going on. And I feel like a lot that's why a lot of people get nervous before. And and like you said, you mentioned that, now I'm like a little, I'm not iffy, I'm definitely excited to do it.
I'm fucking nervous as hell.
That's what I'm saying. You sit there and you're like, well, I can't let that's the big thing.
Like, should I do this? Should I not?
Not even that. When I do it, you can't let your mental, I keep using the word mental space, but you really can't let it go to shit.
Yeah.
Because that'll just make everything go to shit.
Exactly.
So that's I think that's also the biggest, like, fear of when people take shit like this. Even when some people, for you, it's mushrooms, which is pretty much a high level societal drug. But, like, people smoke weed, they're like, I can't do it. Like, what if I do this? And it's stuff like that. Like, it's just your mindset going in. You can't let it go to shit.
I think that all derives from the fear of that's invoked.
Entirely.
To, like, I think people have been told that it's this drug that does these crazy things, and for high anxiety folks, they'll feel it because side effect of smoking weed is paranoia. But you have to see where that paranoia is coming from. Where is it really coming from? Is it you smoking the weed, or is it you not being able to confront shit?
Or is it you saying you're just being nervous about smoking the weed? It's just,
exactly.
I feel like did you see the thing was like the law, the reason that marijuana got banned? It was some, I don't remember it exactly to like a P, but I think I remember it was sort of like there was all the hippies in like the 70s, some were smoking weed, and there was some sort of government feud between them and the government. So the government said, "Fuck you, I'm gonna ban marijuana." Like, that's the reason it's banned. That's the reason people don't experience a lot of it.
And mainly why, also, other than that, it's like, weed, it's so crazy because alcohol and tobacco are the two substances that, in terms of industries, run the country.
Yeah.
Run the country. There's no getting outside of that. So, when you have an alternative drug that is... You smoke it, so you're not gonna smoke the cigarettes, but you feel better from it better than drinking, even though you smoked it.
Yeah.
So it's like, fuck. We need to fucking demonize this shit.
Yeah.
And then we had fucking people saying that fucking if you smoked weed, then your fucking wife would go to a black man, like, and would fall in love with Mexicans. Like, that's real.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's fucked up. It's crazy. It's created a whole
alternative that this should not be. I feel like that's also that's why, like, and sorry, Mom, but every time I encounter a new drug, a lot of the time, I'm not gonna say every time because I don't want to do coke. I don't want to have to sniff that shit like that. And a lot of it can be detrimental to your health. But that's if you do it a lot. So sometimes I one of the first times we were at the frat house that I'm in, girl comes up to me, she's like, "You want to do Molly?" And I was like, "Ooh." I was like,
"You were like, yo."
Yeah, but I was like, I don't know. I was like, I never done it. And I was like, I'm a little shook. And she showed me it, and I was like, holy shit! It's a tiny little fucking capsule with just fucking white crystals in the middle. And I was like, oh shit. And then one of my good buddies was like, I'm gonna fucking do it. You want to do it with me? And I sat there and I was like, all right. I said, fuck it. I'll just try it. I'll do it once. I want to get the experience in. And I don't think I don't want to say it's this. I obviously don't know. It's not the same as shrooms, but it's sort of just like, yeah, you're in your own little space. I sat there. I was all happy. I was giggly. I was having a great time with everyone. And I'm not trying to fucking pop Molly every day because, like you said, there are some side effects
that can come with that. Yeah,
exactly, but it's labeled as such a bad thing when, yes, it's obviously not great and it's not good for you, but shrooms, it's a drug. It's a thing.
Say no to drugs. That's what we've been told.
And it's such a popular, like I said, slogan. It's such a popular way of thinking that it's just not good.
Yeah, and it's so crazy because, like, the drugs that are legal are more detrimental to your health.
Yeah.
And like the ones that are deadly and illegal, if you don't demonize people for doing drugs, like that's the whole thing.
Well, I think it's also everything in moderation. I could take Molly once a month and be fine for the rest of my life. I will not die because I take Molly once a month. If you sit there every weekend, you're popping pills and doing shit, that's when you say no to drugs.
And it's not even that, because I could say no, KNOW. Don't say don't turn yourself to a blind eye from patterns and like you have to know what you're getting yourself into before you make the decision of getting yourself into
or
it.
It's not. I feel like it's the same thing with the nuclear family. It's sort of just like, just because people are like, go get a job, go get a wife, blah, 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 doesn't mean you go do that. Just because people are like, hey, like, you gotta stay away from all these drugs, doesn't mean all of them are horrible.
Literally, bro, literally. We are running a little low on time, especially because you have class and I have class relatively soon, but you sooner than me. So, besides thanking you for coming on, it was a wonderful conversation. I guess from here, like, I don't know. I guess the one thing that I definitely would want to touch upon, I guess, it's, of course, it has to do with drugs and being under the influence of drugs. That's where the conversation came. But
yes.
I guess for you, because for me, I'm, for the most part, on a, 2 to 3 societal drug situation. I don't really drink much. I'm, I guess, quote, off of the cuff compared to a lot of others.
Yeah.
But smoke weed, drink coffee. I'll trip once in a while whenever I'm feeling okay and feeling that it's an appropriate time. I guess for you, what different drugs do, what purpose as a tool, I guess, for individual ones that you encounter more often than others would be, I guess, what led you to the use of the drug, and how has the use of the drug changed over time?
Weed has shifted entirely. It was sort of like a thing, and it sucks because it was fucking Savage Wax Tank. That was my first sort of thing.
The pens!
And I remember sitting there, and I used to just sit with my friends in the car, suck the tank, and we would just be fucking brain dead for 2 hours. And that's what it used to be. It used to be like, oh, let's go sit in your house in your basement and play 2K and get fucking brain dead.
Yeah, literally.
And it evolved to I'm gonna see my friends, let me bring a joint, we'll hang out, talk, siph. And now it's sort of more integrated. It's more like the other day I had to do a PowerPoint presentation, a lesson plan, all this crap. And after one of the things I had to do, I was like, I need something. I was like, my brain hurts. I smoked, I got everything fucking done, and I worked out. And then I went to sleep. It was sort of it's more integrated in my life and more of a, I don't want to say necessity, because that does sound like it's not. It's more of how do I explain it?
It's a tool that, if used
correctly, if you have to use it correctly,
you're not gonna smoke a fat joint to the face.
No, I'm gonna have a little bit.
You'll hit the one hitter, you hit the pipe, you take a couple hits of a small joint, and then you're like, okay, I'm at the point where I'm in action mode. Yeah. You're not.
I'm still able to do stuff while I'm high. You cannot get to the point where you sit there and you're actually not reading out, but slumped over. Yeah, that's what I like. I have a tiny one hitter. I take 2 or 3 pieces from it, and my brain's flowing. I feel everything open up a little bit, and I'm like, all right, let me try to get back into it.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm the same way. I definitely dip a little further with the weed. Sometimes I'll definitely smoke at the end of all the things that I have to get done, and then get absolutely bombed.
Yeah, but that's still okay, because that's what I'm saying. That's it's just a social life that I need to get everything done, and then once I'm done, I get relaxed, and this is a very good tool to relax.
Yeah, I agree. I guess now you're more in the social atmosphere than I am in terms of drinking. Yeah. I guess.
Well, I still, and of all my friends, I'm still the least.
Yeah, I know.
Well, not you, but I'm saying all the kids
I know that. I know that.
Yeah.
I know that. But I guess mainly what are the differences of your perception of it, I guess, when you're in the environment and when you're under the influence, as opposed to when you're in the environment but you may not be under the influence? Say you're either sober for the night because you're driving, or even if you get a little high because you're the DD, like what changes, what stays the same?
Well, I think every atmosphere that I do drink in is more of like it's gonna have to be a party atmosphere. I know people who sit there sometimes I can have a beer with dinner and I'm just like, fuck it, it's like drinking a soda. It's like I just want to have a beer with my dinner, and that doesn't happen often for me. Most of the time it's sort of you go out and you gotta. This is what I hate, and this is a pet peeve of mine. Is when I go out and I'm totally sober and I'm in the room with, I'm sorry ladies, mostly drunk females. Men too can be very annoying, but when it's drunk females and you're sober and I sit there and everyone's screaming and yelling and jumping, it's like, unless I'm drunk, that's not what I want to be. That's not what I want to be doing.
I agree.
And a lot of the time I don't want to be drunk. So if I am, and I agree, that's sort of what makes the environment better, is if I'm out with people and like I am drunk, I'm going to be one of those drunk dickheads jump around having fun.
Yeah.
But that's if I'm in the mood, or that's if I somehow get people to get me to drink.
Yeah.
When I'm high or whatever, I'll probably gravitate to like
a corner.
The corner, the least quiet person, have a conversation with them, and that's it.
Yeah, literally. That's how I feel. I'm very much like.
Yeah, alcohol, and it's also just like, I don't want to wake up the next morning and throw up. Like, I'd rather just smoke, be high, talk, and hang out. I don't want to have to sit there and have a headache for a day and have to throw up everywhere. It's never a good time.
I'm the same way, bro. I agree wholeheartedly, and I think with the alcohol, for me, it's also my resentment towards it, I guess, that I've always had, and you guys, I guess you have seen, I guess, the evolution of it kind of go from something that I completely was turned off to, because I definitely projected that, and I know I have, to it kind of just, easing up for sure, like.
I think it's also a big thing in my life is everything in moderation. It's sort of just, like, on the weekend, maybe I'll drink once a weekend, or maybe I won't. It's pretty much like 0 to 1. I'll have one day where I'll go out and have fun and drink and hang out with my friends, and I assure you I smoke weed after I drink.
Yeah,
like,
you're not gonna drink and then not smoke.
That's what I'm saying, yeah, like, if I smoke, I know there's a great chance I'm not going to be throwing up later. Like, it's just trying to, like, everything in moderation. I don't want to be sitting there. I know a bunch of kids in my fraternity are just very, very on set.
All day.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They're just fucking hammered, funneling beers. And I'm like, I could hang with you for a little bit, but I can't be doing that much crap.
I feel you. Alrighty, I think that was a great way to end. Thank you once again, Mike.
Of course, thank you for having me. I'm excited for the next one,
I'm excited for the next one. I'm thinking I'd be down to record something again, mainly with, I want to get both of you or both of them individually, but I want to get the four of us to do one as well.
I think,
so, thank you once again, and good luck on your homework, and I'll possibly see you later.
Yes, definitely.
Nice.